welcome everyone. My name is Vera and today I'll show you how to paint a wonderful painting that looks like a sign, a fall harvest sign. It's gonna say pumpkin spice everything, because you know who doesn't like pumpkin spice. We're gonna have a beautiful couple pumpkins on the bottom. We're gonna have some leaves. We're gonna have some nice writing, and guys, results vary. If your handwriting is good, you're gonna have good writing. If not, not good writing, but the pumpkins are gonna be great, I promise. So let's go through everything that we're gonna need for today. First of all, as you notice, I am starting with a black canvas. This is not a canvas that is black by itself. I painted it. It's just a regular canvas that I pre-painted with black. If you have gesso, you can pre-gesso canvas with black, even better, but just painting with black is totally fine. Now, next thing we're gonna need is some sort of mixing palette. I'm gonna be using this, but any mixing palette works. You will need some water, you will need some cloths or paper towel, something, napkin, perfectly fine too. What else? You're gonna need paint, absolutely. We're gonna be using all primary colors, at least I will be using all primary colors. White, black, yellow, red, blue, and I'll be mixing them into all shades that we need. If you guys have pre-mixed colors, you're free to use that as well. Just see what we use and try to match it to what you have. What else? You're gonna need brushes, of course. Very important part of painting is brushes. And you can use any brushes that you want. I am personally only gonna use 2 different brushes for this painting. Usually we use 3 brushes. We use big brush, medium brush, and small brush. But for this painting, I don't need that. I only need a medium brush and a small brush, even though I'm using fairly large canvas, because my background is already done. And we usually use big brush only for the background. So since you already have pre-painted background, you don't need that. Just medium brush and small brush is good. If you have a couple of different sizes and shapes for medium brush, go for it. You can choose whichever one works the best for every particular step. And remember, I am going to be suggesting brushes based on the size of my canvas. If your canvas is smaller, go with smaller brushes. You will also find it generally easier to paint on a slightly smaller canvas. So guys, what are we going to do now? We're going to start with sketching all of our pumpkins, everything else. We're gonna do a little sketch. Once we position everything, we're gonna start coloring it. So we're gonna do dark tones, mid-tones, highlights, and that's gonna be our final thing. So even though our sketch is gonna be looking light because we're doing it on a black background, don't worry about it. It's just a sketch. You can get rid of all those lines. You're not gonna see them in the end because we're gonna cover them with mid-tones, shadows, mid-tones, highlights. Yeah, it's gonna be layering. And again, not touching the background. So you're gonna start by taking smallest brush that you have. Doesn't have to be super fine brush for this particular step. Any small brush will do just fine. And you can technically start with any color. I'm gonna start with a gray color. So it's just white with a touch of black. You can start with any color that you can see on your black. Doesn't matter, it's just for us to sketch things, so you're gonna cover it in the end. You're not gonna see that color, so don't worry about it. I would probably not recommend going with bright and vibrant, something like yellow or red, just in case, and it might be a bit harder for you to cover them up. So anything neutral-ish, gray, beige, brown, orange, just because we're gonna have so many of those colors, it's perfect. So we're gonna take that on our brush and we're gonna start sketching. I'm gonna start sketching with positioning my middle pumpkin. My middle pumpkin, I'm gonna start by just putting one line. Do you see? It's like a small line. It's about middle of my canvas. This is just for me. This is for my brain to know where the bottom of my stem on my pumpkin is gonna be. Now from this, I'm gonna indicate the bottom of my pumpkin. So I'm gonna put something on the bottom. Again, this is just for my brain to know where things are gonna go. I find this very, very helpful. So let me get closer to you guys. Awesome. So now we're gonna turn this into pumpkin. Doesn't have to be perfect. Line by line. Middle. We're gonna continue going forward. Again, line by line. Guys, this is just our sketch. And you probably ideally wanna go a bit dimmer than what I have right now. I'm going crazy bright just for you guys to be able to see it better. If I go dimmer, you're not gonna see it very well, so I'm going with a crazy bright color. But it's always, of course, a bit better to go a touch more muted than this. And you see, I'm not afraid to put a lot of brush strokes, just because, again, this is our sketch, so don't be afraid to add a little too much. We will get rid of a lot of this. Okay, this is our first pumpkin. Yours can be bigger, can be smaller. It doesn't have to be exact same size and shape. As long as it's similar enough, it's all good. And you can continue perfecting, you can continue adding things, taking away things until you're happy with it, and then you stop. Awesome. I am quite happy with this right now. But guys, take your time. Take as much time as needed to do this. What a beautiful pumpkin. Okay, now I'm gonna move on to my second pumpkin. My second pumpkin, I'm gonna have two more pumpkins. I will have one here and one here. And one of them is gonna be slightly smaller and another one is gonna be really, really small. And they're gonna be slightly more tilted. Actually, let's add the pointy top here just so we know that this one is not very tilted. From the middle, we're gonna add a stem. You can make it pointing anyway. Totally up to you guys. That's my stem. Okay. Now I'm gonna move on my second largest pumpkin, which is this one. So the same, I'm gonna start by marking for myself where my middle is gonna be. So middle, by middle I mean this part, not the top part, not the middle, this part. And the bottom of my pumpkin. For me, it's going to be right here. And then I'm going to start making my pumpkin. Do you see it's slightly more tilted than a previous pumpkin? And you see I'm working in the same order. Middle part and then one on the right, one on the left, one on the right, one on the left, and so on. It doesn't matter which side goes first, left or right. That's not important here. And of course something in the back. And ta-da! I have my second pumpkin. And of course I'm gonna add the middle part to it right away. Wonderful. Done. And now I'm gonna be adding my smallest pumpkin on this side. And this one is going to be tilted as well. It's going to be slightly tilted on this angle. And again, I'm going to start by deciding where my middle is going to be, and it's going to be lower in this case, and my bottom is going to be lower as well, just because that is the smallest pumpkin. And I will start with my middle part again. And then one on the left, one on the right, and so on. And now that I'm done, I will add a couple of those on the back as well. Wonderful, and a stem, of course. Great. Now I have the base for my pumpkins. What I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna switch to my medium brush. And I will take some black paint. And guys, remember this is a recording, so if you would like to take a bit more time, go for it. Just pause this video, give yourself enough time, and then whenever you're ready, resume it and join me again. Now I'm going to take some black and I'm going to get rid of the lines that I don't want. Because as you see, I made a lot of lines, and not all of them are lines that I want to see in the end. So I'm just going to take some black, and whatever lines I don't want, I'll get rid of them to just define my pumpkin shapes a bit more. And remember, those are still not your final lines. So just go around and see what you need to get rid of. Alternatively, guys, if you have chalk, you can do all of this with chalk. I personally like using just one material, if paint, then paint, but I do know some people who find it helpful to use chalk instead. So if you feel like you've done this with paint and you're not happy, you would like to redo this with chalk, no problem, just paint over everything with black, let it dry, and go back to it and redo it with chalk. Okay, I got rid of all the lines that, actually not all the lines, this line. I don't want to see that one in the end. I will make that part smaller. Okay, I got rid of all the lines that I don't want to see in the end. I have my 3 beautiful pumpkins. Now guys, I'm gonna move on to sketching other parts, and next part for me personally is gonna be leaves. I'm gonna start sketching my leaves, just again to position them, to know where things go. Let me show you one leaf. I'm going to position one leaf just so you can see how it works, how it's going to look, and then you can decide where you want to position yours. I'm going to give you guys freedom to position them wherever you want. So I will position my first one here. I will do one line from the pumpkin out. After that, I'm going to do 2 more lines. Now, after I have 3 lines, I'm going to start turning this into a leaf. Now that is my pumpkin leaf. I will make a couple more, and some of them are going to be bigger, some of them are going to be smaller, and you can position them anywhere you want. So I'll add another smaller one right here. Exact same way. Now let's go into this side. Beautiful. I think I'm good with the leaves for now. I don't think I want to add any more right now. I might add more later, but I want to wait. Because sometimes as we start adding more elements, even though if you have a perfect idea in mind or you know exactly what you're painting, as we start adding elements, you cannot recreate something twice. So you don't know exactly how your letters are going to turn out, and those leaves are nice fillers. So if in the end, once we position everything, we feel like there are certain holes that would like to be covered, we can add more leaves in there. So now we have sketched our pumpkins. Now let's write pumpkin spice everything. Now guys, if you are very particular about your fonts, maybe take chalk or pencil and sketch it with pencil, or have a printout and know exactly how you're going to position your words. That will really help you. If not, you can freehand it, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to freehand it and hope for the best. Hope that it turns out well. And again, because we're doing this on a black background, this is very forgiving. And this is just a sketch. In case you don't like something that you did, you cover it up with black, let it dry, and do it again. So that is a good part here. That's why we're going to go straight ahead and do our best. Okay guys, again, we're going to use small brush. So grab your small brush, some paint, and what I'm going to do first, I'm going to position my rows. I find that it's much easier to do letters once you have your rows straight. That way your letters are not all over the place, higher, lower, but you can keep them within the row. So my word pumpkin is going to go right here, and my word spice is going to go a little lower. So I'm going to put my first row for my word pumpkin. It's going to be one line. So one curved line in a way. And then second one for the bottom of our letters. Okay, now for the word spice. Keep in mind the P letter is going to be bigger. So this is pretty much where the top of my P is going to be. Now the spice letter, S, is going to be bigger as well for spice. So this is the top for my S. And now this is the top with the rest of the letters. Top line. And bottom line. And the word everything, we'll deal with that later. Let's do our pumpkin spice first. So now you just freehand your letters to the best of your ability and keep them within those lines. That's why we added lines, just to make it easier for us. So I'm going to start my P here. And again, this is just a sketch. Remember, you don't have to get it right or good from the first try. It is what it is. If you would like to redo it, you will get a chance to do that. I'll bring my K a little lower here, just because I can. And I'm running out of space, both. Alright, let's bring this lower. First draft. Pumpkin. What do you guys think? I think this will do as a base. Let's sketch out our word spice and then we'll go and edit them. Now, something to look out for, you want them to sorta stay within the same angle. So you don't want your pumpkin, let's say your P be angled that way and your spice be angled this way. So you try to continue staying with the same angle. If angle changes as you go, that's fine, but you don't want both words have different angles. And try to keep your letters the same. So let's say I had a P here, I want to do the exact same P there. Again, they don't have to be perfectly the same, but to the best of your ability. You don't want to use different style. Pumpkin. Spice, and again, I already used one eye, so I'm going to look up and try to do my eye the same as the earlier eye. I haven't used C yet. Technically, I could do this one however you want, however I want. Pumpkin spice. And now the word everything, I would like to do different font, and I want to put it right there straight. So again, I'm going to put 2 lines. This time they're going to be straight lines, or to the best of my ability. I might need to look at it again because I'm looking at my canvas on an angle. Sometimes that causes problems with straightness of my line. Okay, again, remember 2 lines. And now my everything, I would like straight letters. So let's try this. And remember, if you don't like it, you repaint it. Okay, I have pumpkin spice everything. This is great. And guys, if they're not positioned properly, again, this is our sketch. Don't worry about it. You just need to have base. Now, give yourself enough time. Don't rush through this. But once you have it, grab some black paint again on your medium brush and let's get rid of lines that we don't want. And if you did this with chalk, even better. Just erase them. For those who did it with paint, you can just cover it with paint. And another thing you could do if you wanted to lighten up those lines, go for it. I am just slightly going over them with black too, just to make them lighter. That way, once I start adding my final text, I can overwrite them. I will still see this a little bit. And guys, don't go hard on yourself here. And the reason is it's still supposed to look handwritten, so it shouldn't be perfect. We're not looking for perfection here. Okay, the rest of things I will get rid of whenever. I'm quite happy with this. Yeah, little things you don't worry about it. You can fix it in the end if you have like, do you see I have a bit of a spot right here? I'm not worried about it right now. If I want to, I'll get rid of it last thing. Again, we just have a black background, so you can always add that black. Now let me look at it and see if I'm happy with this before we move to next step. Yes, I'm quite happy with it. Now, I'm happy with my positioning. Now I'm gonna start adding other elements. And let me show you guys closer because I know it's glaring, so I'm gonna be trying to move my canvas so you can see not glaring parts. I think I need to make this longer because it looks like pumpkin spice right now, not pumpkin spice. But that's okay. Small potatoes. I can change that. No biggie. All right, going back to my brush, I'm gonna add a couple fillers and a couple leaves, and we're good to start coloring. So I'm gonna add my lines again, but this time a bit lower. This is decorative line. This is not the line that we added before. Before the line was for a reason. This one is purely decorative. Has no purpose other than that. The same with spice. I'm gonna add another line here. Everything is gonna have lines too on top and the bottom, but we will add them later, no big deal. And I'm gonna add leaves right now. I'm gonna add a couple leaves here and a couple leaves here. And your options are, guys, you can add leaves the same that we had on the pumpkins before, or you can add more of just the fall falling leaves. I think I'm gonna go with more just the fall falling leaves, but if you really like this kind of leaf, you can continue using the same kind of leaf. And I'm gonna start by putting line. And then I'll make a leaf. That's my leaf. Number one. I'll add a couple more. You can add as many as you want. You always start with a line and then you make it into a leaf. Some of your leaves can definitely be crossed and you can have a leaf and then another leaf under. It doesn't have to be just one leaf. Let's add one more right here. Beautiful. Now let's add a couple leaves on the other side as well. Okay, I am happy with this amount of leaves. And because I didn't make any mistakes on my leaves, there's nothing for me to get rid of. But if your leaves took you a couple lines and there you have sketch lines, get rid of them now before we start coloring. And after that, we're gonna move on to coloring. So once you have this, make sure you wash off your small brush and you put it aside for now. Guys, now we're ready for coloring. So I'm gonna start with my pumpkins. Actually, I'm gonna do one color at a time and wherever it applies, so I will add that there. My middle pumpkin is gonna be reddy orange. This one's gonna be like yellowy orange, and this one is gonna be greener. My leaves are gonna be all kinds of colors. So what I'm gonna start with, I will start by making this very dark orangey, almost brown color. And you're gonna need yellow, red, white and black on your plate. So make sure you put those colors. If you're using pre-mixed colors, watch me make my color first and then see what color you have out there on your plate or in your collection of colors that you could use for this. So I'm gonna just take my yellow, mix in some red, and I will be mixing some white. And no, it doesn't make sense. Why? Because you can get the right color without any white, but my paint is semi-transparent, so if I don't add white, it's gonna dry really, really dark, especially because we're adding it on black. My paint is almost gonna dry black, and I don't want that to happen. So that's the reason why I'm gonna be adding a little smidge of white into my paint. So now, with this color that I made, oh yes, that's the color. Let me show it real close to you guys. Now with this color, yellow, red, and a touch of white, I'm gonna start adding it here. And again, I'm not avoiding necessarily my lines, but I don't want to lose them fully because I still want to see them. I'm coloring in, but as you can see, I'm not coloring fully. It's more of a transparent coloring in, and I'm only coloring from top and the bottom. I'm not really concentrating on my middle here. If it's a bit transparent and you can see a black, that's okay. It's supposed to be this way. Beautiful. I am loving this so much, guys. Now let's add a bit of that color onto our leaves. You can choose a couple leaves and add it there. I think I'm gonna go on this leaf. Let it from this side. And maybe on this leaf. Awesome, beautiful. Now, my next color. For my next color, I will add a touch of black to it. So the same color we just used, add a tiny, tiny little smidge of black. You don't want to make it very dark. You just want it maybe a little bit dimmer. Try this color and see. Oh yeah, that's a good color. And with this color, so do you see it's similar? It just looks greener. It looks a bit dimmer. So with this color, we'll do exact same thing, but on this pumpkin. And if you have pre-mixed dimmer brown, you could use that. Let me show you what my color looks like on my palette. This is my color I'm using right now. You see, it's just a regular dim brown. There's nothing special about that color. Again, very lightly. However, guys, this is very forgiving painting. Okay, and now, if you don't have blue on your palette yet, take some blue and add a little bit more blue to the same color we just used. So to this color, you can add blue. And this is what happened. I just added a smidge of blue to that color. And you see it turned greener. It's hard to explain. It's greener, but it's not crazy green. So I'm going to add a little bit of white so you can see it a bit brighter. Yeah, that color. It's like a dim green color. That's perfect for our third pumpkin. If you have pre-mixed colors, you can mix it. If you are using, if you guys have to mix it again, you're going to need a yellow, red, and a touch of blue. You don't even have to add black. So you start by mixing yellow and red. If you need to premix white, premix white. If not, no problem. And then you just start adding blue until you get to the right shade, touch by touch. And with this color, I'm going to do the same thing with this pumpkin. Awesome. Now, if you want to add a bit of this color onto your leaves, go for it. For me, yeah, I'm going to add it right here, just a little bit, but not much. It's not my favorite color for the leaves, so that's more than enough. Now we're going to move on to the brighter colors. So I'm going to move on to my red actually. So I'm going to take some red on my palette, mix it with a little bit of yellow, just a smidge, and some white. And the only reason why I'm mixing yellow with, I'm mixing my yellow, slight smidge of yellow into my red, is to change the shade of my red. My red is more like a magenta red, and I want it a bit more orangey red. So I'm going to take some red. It's my primary red. Then I'm going to take some yellow. I have some yellow right here. Mix them up, and you see it's still red. It just changed the shade from magenta, pinky red to orangey red. And now I'm going to grab some white, not a lot, because I don't want to change it to light color, but I do want it non-transparent. And as I mentioned before, my paint and a lot of student grade acrylics are semi-transparent. So for you to be able to see them once they dry over the black background, you're going to need to add at least a little bit of white. So now I have this color. This is the color I'm using. If you have premixed, you can grab any shade of red that makes you happy. And now I'm going to add it to my leaf. So we'll add it on this leaf from the other side. And you see it's transparent, and that's great. I want it that way. I will add it on this back leaf. And let's add it onto the side of this leaf. Wonderful. I have a couple leaves with this color. That is absolutely great. Okay, moving forward. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to make lighter and brighter orange for the middles of our pumpkin. So we're going to go with this one. You could use your red that you just used as a mixing base. This is my red. Oops. I'm going to grab some yellow, add it into it, and lots of white this time because I want it much, much lighter. So this looks like a pretty good color, but I think I need a little more red. Yes, I think this is going to be perfect color for me here. So that was just the same way that you make orange, just add more white this time. Yellow, red, and white. And with this color, we're going to go right on the middles of our pumpkins. And you see this is a brighter color. Yes, beautiful. Amazing, guys. I'm quite happy with this. Now I'm gonna add a touch more yellow into it and a touch more white. Let's scoop some yellow from here, add it to this color, and some white. Mix it in and make it even lighter and even yellower. And with this color, I'm gonna go on to this pumpkin. Beautiful. Now let's finish up our last pumpkin. And for this one, what I'm gonna do, if you still have a little bit of that green that we used, I'm gonna add more white to it and more blue. I wanna make it lighter, but also bluer. If not, you can mix a new one and you can just do yellow, blue and white this time, and just add very little bit of yellow. So it looks almost like teal. And if you wanted to tone it down a little bit, add a smidge of red or a smidge of black. That will tone it down for you. But hopefully you still have a little bit of the same color left. It's always easier to mix from that color. So just add a touch more white and a touch more blue to it. You see, it almost looks like a mint color. Awesome. Now, let's finish up our leaves. So you can use any green that you would like. There's no particular green that you have to use, guys. I'm gonna be using pretty bright green. So I'm gonna use some yellow, then I'll add some white and some blue, and it's gonna turn pretty bright. If you have pre-mixed green, good for you. You can use any green that you would like here. So that is my green that I'll be using, which again is just yellow, touch of blue, and some white. And I'm gonna add it onto my leaves. I'm gonna flick it from the outside, mostly. You can color the whole thing, that's totally fine too. I have a little bit there. Now I'm gonna go on to the other side, and we'll do the, let me show you guys closer here. That's what it looks like. And you see I'm not using a lot of paint, so it's pretty transparent. Also, my paint, when it dries, it gets more transparent as well. So once this dries, you're gonna see it's gonna get even more transparent. So let's leave the same thing, and I'm using my medium brush, but if medium brush seems uncomfortable, you can switch to any other brush, guys. Okay, my leaves are done. I think I'm gonna add a little bit of this green to this leaf as well from that side. And I just have to finish up a couple leaves. So I'm gonna make very bright orangey yellow. So again, I'm gonna grab some yellow, add a touch of red and a touch of white. If you have bright orange mix, use it. If you still have a little bit more of this color or that color, you can use that as well. Oops. And we will add it from the end of this leaf. You can add it on this leaf if you would like. This one is fine too. Whichever leaves you guys have unfinished. Oh, this little guy. Almost forgot about him. And perfect, we have everything colored. Now we're moving on to our final thing. We're gonna move on to white. Okay guys, and the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna use our small brush and we'll start adding white highlights and finishing touches. So you're gonna wash off your brush, you'll take some white, and with that white, we're gonna go around pretty much everything. You can start with pumpkins, you can start with words. I'm gonna start with words, and the reason why, we're gonna go from the top to the bottom just because I'm resting my hand sometimes, and if I start here, I might accidentally smudge it. So I'm gonna start from the top. So now you're giving your words a final look. So be careful. pumpkin, yay! That's my final word, pumpkin. Okay, now I'm gonna do my lines right away. Again, because as I mentioned before, I'm going from the up down because I don't want to accidentally smudge it with my hand. Doesn't mean you can't add any more details on top later. You totally could. You just have to be extra careful. And now let's move on to the word spice. Wonderful. A couple lines on my B. Let's add a couple more lines on my S. Awesome. Okay, now I'm gonna do a little bit of my leaves. So again, I'm gonna start with my middle. Now I'm just using straight white. I'm gonna flick it from the end of the leaf towards the pointy end, but not all the way. You could go all the way if you wanted to, that's not a problem at all. Now I'm gonna flick some more on the outline. Again, if you would like to do it all the way, go for it. If you don't wanna do all the way, it's not a problem either. Now on my bigger one, I will add a couple more lines in the middle. I'll flick them from the middle line out. Yes, beautiful. All right, moving forward. I'll do exact same thing to those leaves that I did to this ones. The only thing I would say, try to have a bit finer lines on your leaves than on your writing. Don't need to have it as bold. And I will do a couple middle lines on this large leaf as well. Awesome. Okay, on to word everything. And just very carefully outline everything here as well. All right, awesome. Now, I'm gonna quickly get rid of all those unnecessary lines. Remember I told you that I'll finish up covering lines that I don't want with black. once we're done. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go on my everything and all those lines that I don't want. We'll finish covering them up with the black. Oh, this is pretty good. I'm happy with this. And I'm gonna add 2 lines. Add a line on the bottom. It's gonna be straight line. And a little line on top. Might add one more. Perfect. Okay, moving forward. Let's quickly do the sleeve. And do a couple lines on it. Beautiful. And now we're on to our pumpkins. So we'll start with the top. This one is not going to be filled in with anything. Now we're going to add lines. Same way. Do you remember how we sketched it? So it's going to be very similar to the way we sketched it. But you see, I'm adding a bit more lines this time. Awesome. I'm going to add a bit more white on the bottom here. And this looks really, really great. Okay, next pumpkin. So you're pretty much doing the same thing on all of your pumpkins. Okay, and now it's turn of our leaves. Let me show you guys closer first. Now we're gonna do our leaves. I'm gonna start with the outline. And you see it's broken up. It's not very even outline. And then I'll flick some brush strokes on the inside. So the same way that we started them. If you want to add a couple extra lines from the middle, go for it. But again, they're not very necessary. So if you would like to skip that, it's totally fine too. So broken up outline. And a few flicks inside. A few more flicks out of those lines. And I am on to my last leaf. Same thing. Yes, okay, we're almost there, guys. Now, what are we gonna move on? We're gonna move on to fillers. So we're gonna add all those wavy, beautiful lines to fill all the empty areas. So wherever you see that there's something missing, you add there. And you can add a lot of things. You can add all kinds of lines, lines on an angle, you can make dots, you can add swirls, you can add swirls like this, you can add, let me show you. Let me show you. So we're gonna start with pumpkins. I'm gonna add a few lines like this out of my pumpkins. And you only add them where your painting needs them. If your painting doesn't need them, don't add them. Those are fillers. Yes, awesome. Now we will add a couple swirly lines like that around our leaves. But again, only if you want to. You don't have to do it. It's not a super necessary step. If you don't do it, it's still gonna look great. And right now, the only place that I have empty area here, so I'm gonna add another line. Beautiful. I think I'm done. I don't want to be adding anything. If you guys feel like your painting could benefit from something else, absolutely go for it. You don't have to be done now. You just look at it and see what else does it need, what else could I add that would benefit my painting, and whatever you can think of, you add it. So I'm gonna add a couple lines on the bottom here. And if you don't like it, as I mentioned before, this is really forgiving painting because you can just cover them with black. Like they were never there before. Okay, awesome. And once you guys have all of that, you sign it. You find the perfect spot and you sign it with your name. Ta-da! We are officially done. Let me show it closer to you guys. And let me move it around as well so you can see it without a glare. You know, glare is kind of makes it very hard for us to see, especially the color. But yes, this is finished. And now we can either paint the edges of the canvas black to make it look really nice and finished, or what we could do, we could frame it. If you have a nice frame, put it in a frame. That will look beautiful for this painting. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope your painting looks absolutely beautiful. And thank you for joining us. Bye everyone.